Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Unstoppable Overcomers. Today, we are going to be doing something absolutely crazy and insane, but that's how we roll here at Unstoppable Overcomers, because life throws us melons or lemons, and we make lemonade out of them over here. So, I am pleased and honored to introduce you tonight. We have a co-host, Mrs. Kimberly Genovese. So, welcome to the show tonight, Kimberly.
Hi.
So, folks, I brought Kimberly on tonight because, well, everybody knows that my family's been having a rough 8 days. And I decided, in case I got way too emotional or got a phone call, that I would have Kimberly on helping me. So, you'll notice that sometimes I might just disappear a little bit, but I'll be back running the scenes behind the back. So, with that, I'm also going to bring on our lovely guest tonight. Okay. And it's Melissa. How are you tonight, Melissa?
I'm good, and how are you guys?
Oh, I am fabulous. Now, there we go. We got the main one in the main here. So tonight's topic is creating the life that you love. The idea around the topic was that we so often go through life on autopilot, and when we make the conscious decision to live the life that we are passionate about, and feel more experienced, we feel a huge shift. So with that, Melissa, instead of reading everything here, I'm just going to introduce you, bring you on here and say welcome and tell us a little bit about your overcoming story.
Okay. Sorry. My overcoming story is a lot of it deals around health issues. So in my late 20s, I ended up starting to deal with some breathing issues and a lot of the problems we could not figure out. Started out thinking maybe it was pneumonia, then it was bronchitis, going back and forth between that and going to doctor's offices. And at one point, I was so bad off that I wasn't actually able to walk across a room without being out of breath. And seeing countless specialists, I was eventually diagnosed with a lung condition called nonspecific interstitial lung disease. And I'm actually one of the youngest people in Canada who has this illness. It's usually something that is for somebody older in life. We're not too sure how this came to be because it's not usually hereditary. There has been some cases of it being hereditary, but it's not usually. And throughout my family history, there has been nothing there. But my overcoming story was dealing with this. This went on, well, still going on, but, it was actually over 2 years before I actually got a diagnosis and had to go through 3 different specialists. And throughout it, trying out different medications. At one time, I was actually on a list to have a lung transplant. It was that bad. And this has caused other repercussions with other medical conditions because, you start one thing, it triggers something else. So they all kind of played into one. And this, brought on some depression and other anxiety related things. And just one day I made that decision that, it was either I need to wake up and make a change in my life, or I was going to make a decision that I could not come back from. And I sat there and was considering it, and I realized how much I actually had to live for, and that, I had some good, and, that one little good thing made that difference and made me decide that I want to have a better life. And that's what started me on that journey, was wanting to make a decision that I want a life that I'm happy with. I wanted to feel happy in my body and everything like that. And that's when I started the personal development journey that led me to this and design that own life that, I'm happy with.
That's awesome. And so tell us a little bit about what you've done with that journey then, Melissa.
Sure. With the journey, it was a lot of, for me, reading. I'm a huge reader, so there was a lot of that. And I, also started going to, I went to this women's group that, would focus on themes in life that you wanted to deal with, like boundaries, or, they would have inspirational speakers come in and we would, do art events. So, it was building that community that, was there to support me and give me the resources that I needed. And also just learning about different things, talking to a therapist was one of the ones that worked for me. And just wanting that decision and that, knowing that I wanted to have that happiness and that fulfillment and make changes was what spurred it in the beginning. But, seeing that there was strong women out there who supported me and, wanted me to overcome also was the other thing. And again, just having all of those books, there's so many personal development books out there. So lots of different things to try.
Totally, totally. Do you have any questions for our guest tonight, Kimberly?
Yeah, Melissa, why don't you share with everyone what was the catalyst for you? What was that moment like? If you could only share one thing with people about where you actually started to access your power in designing your life, what would you say that was for you?
I think it was that moment where I either I was going to make that decision to start living my life again, or possibly where I was considering suicide. That was that moment where I either needed to make that change or do something that I'm probably not at that moment, but would have, looking back on it now, I would have regretted. So I think that catalyst for me was knowing that I had family who loved me. It was a job that I wasn't fully happy in, but I was valued there and I had great friends there. So when you see that you have even just little things and that one little thing that you can be grateful for, use that as your catalyst. Use that as something that you had to hold on to. And, there are some days that is going to be so hard that just knowing that I had that family member love me or, something like that, you use that and you use that to take that next step. And sometimes it's just a matter of showing up, and just showing up is sometimes good enough.
Yeah, definitely. It is, isn't it?
It
Taking one
is.
more breath,
Yep.
right? Giving yourself permission
Yeah.
to take
And I
one more
mean, as a society, and especially as women, we think we have to be doing everything and we have to be these amazing, superheroes or whatever, right? But, it's okay for sometimes just to show up in your PJs. That's a win some days.
Those are some of my favorite days, getting to wear PJs all day.
Exactly, right? Those days are important.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, Melissa, what's something, and that was really fantastic. Thank you for that. Because, there's a lot of people out there and we never know how far and wide the reach Dorothy has, inside her podcast. And, I think the biggest thing, right, is for people to know that what I really heard you saying in that is you knew you weren't alone.
Yes.
And you
I
knew you
mean,
mattered to someone.
definitely. I mean, I am very lucky to say I have an amazing family that supports me, and knowing that they're there to support me. And while they couldn't help with a lot of the stuff, just knowing that they could listen to me, just hear me talk, or just sit with me sometimes, it makes that difference. And, having to make decisions about medications, or, when I was 28, I found out that I would never be able to have children. And that was one of my biggest goals in life, was to have a family and have children. And while I still have that dream and it's going to look something different, but to find that out when not even 30 yet is a huge loss. And I had to grieve that. And, having my mother, who I could call and she would just listen to me talk, or, she's like, well, let's go grocery shopping or something, having them show up and having that support system is going to make a huge difference. And, that was one of the things that spurred me on, is them, and having family, and then having that women's group that I was going to. Having the support system is going to make a huge difference. And that's the great thing about technology now, is we have more of a support system that we can reach out to further.
This is true, isn't it? It
It
really is
is.
true. And what would you say to people? Where would you tell people to look? If, I mean, like you mentioned, Melissa, obviously you're incredibly blessed, to have a family that was supporting you and loving you and listening to you and there for you. What would you say to the people that don't have that? Obviously you mentioned that women's group was also very powerful. So what recommendations do you have for that? And what would you want to say to people? What would you want them to access so they could gain the freedom you've gotten to design your own life?
Definitely. I mean, I throughout my journey, like I said, I was going to the women's group. Through that, I actually met a life coach, and that kind of led me down there, and she helped me on my journey and got me into that field. And, so that was one of the resources, and it's one of the become my personal mission. So, I mean, I definitely think, finding, even if it's like a book club in your community, or, you know, now that coaching has become such a big field that is a lot more online, there are more people like that you can reach out to. I know a lot of them have like more specialties and everything. Um, but it's also, reaching out to a mental health professional, and they can put you into contact with support groups and everything like that. And sometimes it's just Googling. I mean, that's how I found my women's group, was I just Googled personal development events, and that was one of them. And it sounded interesting enough that got me off the couch and got me out there. So I think
Perfect.
if there's a will, there's a way that it'll bring you in. But yeah, so I mean, I just think, taking advantage, and the social media is now so huge, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. So, I mean, there's so many resources out there, but sometimes it's just a matter of looking around, or, you know, letting somebody know that you're looking for that help and asking for them. So, I mean, you may not be in that, like, for example, um, you could have a friend, you could let them know that you're looking into something like this, and they'll be like, oh, I know so and so, I could introduce you, or I'm in this group on Facebook, let me bring you in. And that those kind of things are a great resource for people. So,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, really great. Really great. And Melissa, thank you. Thank you so much for, really being someone and I want to hear more about your mission next, okay?
Okay.
Being someone who's on a mission, to empower people in this way. And for anyone who's listening, or anyone who knows anyone, that is dealing with something as serious as contemplating suicide or things like that, but just being stuck in general, stuck in life, stuck in the rut really heed Melissa's words tonight and embrace that there's just so many options. There's so many different ways to get in contact with other people and get those, dark, scary thoughts out of here and into a conversation with another person. Every day brings a new day. It just does. And,
Exactly.
it really does. So, Melissa, tell us about your mission. Tell us what you're up to. Tell us how you're designing your life and what we
Okay.
can all learn from that.
Well, my mission is to help women who want to rediscover that passion. Throughout my journey, I saw the areas where I wasn't happy with, whether it was my health or my career. And I knew I wanted to make those changes. So my mission, throughout it all was seeing that we're so alone in everything that, I looked at my connections, and as amazing as my support system was, I didn't talk to them about a lot of this stuff. It wasn't until after all of this stuff that I actually started talking. And, y- I wanted to help people, not just, dealing with medical stuff, because that's so personal. But it's also, we go through life so focused on that big goal. We have to have a family. We have to have a successful career, that we don't always think about what makes us actually happy. We're just showing up to check those checks off. And that became my thing, is I didn't want to just show up and check off those boxes. I didn't want to just show up and say, well, got married, had kids, have this great career. I wanted to do something that, A, made a difference, but B, that I was happy doing it, something that I was passionate about, and then infecting that passion into other people's, like, especially for, I keep going back to women because that's who I mostly deal with, just because, I deal with that on an ongoing basis. But, for women, we're so driven for having a career, having a family, that, we're just checking the boxes off. We're not living intentionally. We're not doing things that make us happy. We're often putting others before us. And that's what I wanted to help them with, is to be that happy person that is making you happy. Because when you're happy, let's be honest, you're making people more happy. When you're sad and not living that full life, oftentimes people know that it's passed on. We may think we're making everyone happy, but we're not usually.
I completely understand that, and I definitely agree with it. If tonight was the only night you could reach the people that you're going to reach, or when people listen to this podcast, and I really love that you said you want to infect them, which is really great, especially during COVID times, right? Like, yeah,
Right.
let's infect them with something that would actually, have them be empowered, right? So I love the idea of infecting the world with more Melissa. Right now in this podcast, and knowing that it might be the only way you could touch people, because there's almost 8 billion of them out there. What
Right.
would be like 3 or 4 key ways that you see that you could put those seeds out into the universe and say, hey, if you never find someone like me, or you never find me, here's the 3 or 4 or 5 processes to make sure, no kidding, you bring this into your life.
Well, the first one is, there's always something to be happy about. Even if it's the simplest little thing, happiness and gratitude go together. So I'm going to tie those two in, and, do something kind for somebody else, and it'll change the way you feel about yourself and the way that you're going to feel about that. So I think that would be my first one, just so that finding that joy, you're going to find a purpose to do something else and to have the connection. And, pushing outside of yourself, push your boundaries. So that would be number 2. Push the boundaries of things that are going to make you uncomfortable. Pick the book. Pick up a book that you don't think you would read. Go to an event that you don't think you would go to. Go skydiving. It's not going to be on my list. Please believe that one. But, that might make a difference for somebody, right?
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah.
Right?
I want to do it. Haven't done it yet.
You're
on
doing
the
it
list.
every year. Yes. You do this.
Yeah, no. I'm going to keep both of my feet on the ground. I'll be there holding the camera
Hey,
if you
you're
would
the one
like.
that put it out there, Melissa.
Exactly. And
You
that might make
it one of those places where you I forget what they call it, Dorothy, but like the it's like a virtual skydive, where
Yeah.
in-house, where you can have the skydiving experience without actually jumping out of a plane. That's a place where people could start, right?
I want to just jump out of the plane.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's good.
I don't know. I still have problems with virtual rides, so I'm not going to say that one's for me, but definitely it's something fun, and that can make a difference. One thing that was outside of my boundaries was, I'll be honest, doing this public speaking. I would be throwing up beforehand. Sometimes I still do, but sharing my story, this is pushing my boundaries, because this is not something that a lot of people will talk about. And sharing those stories, sharing my story is pushing one of my boundaries even to this day, because it's uncomfortable to talk about yourself. It's uncomfortable to talk about those hard things. So pushing that boundary, and just self-care is another one. As much as everybody says, oh, here she goes about self-care again, it is important. And it is something, as much as we have those buzzwords and everything like that, they're buzzwords for reasons, because they make a difference. And, actually connecting with it and doing things that's important to you. And that's the other thing, is if your self-care practice is not important to you, it's not gonna make a difference. It's just gonna be another chore. So finding something that, rejuvenates you is important. So I think that's like, what, 2 or 3 or 4? I'm not sure. I have so many more, but
I definitely heard, and Dorothy, help me out if I've left any out. I heard, being grateful, regardless, like no matter what's going on, looking for the silver lining in situations, and if that's not sufficient, to be kind, to really go do a kind act for no other reason than to do a kind act, and it will alter your perspective on yourself and who you are. And then I heard, go get involved in something that you've never done before. Get yourself out of the box, get yourself out of the rut of the day-to-day. Do something that you would never think you would do, like jumping out of a plane. And or find a group of people, a community of people that you've not ever spent time with before. Those were the 4 key ones that I heard. And then ultimately I heard, obviously self-care, but in reality, it's not necessarily a 5th one as much as it is in the sense of, if any of those first 4 that you said don't land as self-care, don't feed your soul, then go make sure to go do something nourishing to yourself. Like, one of my favorite things that most people don't think about is to hug yourself, to literally take the action to put your arms around yourself, hug yourself, hold yourself as if you were another person. It sounds odd, and I'm telling you, there's a sensation that comes from actually hugging yourself that is, and so I think that's the kind of self-care you're speaking to, or, a saltwater bath or a massage or whatever the case might be.
All of those would be heaven right now.
Right?
Right?
Oh my God. My body is screaming for a massage right now. there's just one. I love all of what Kimberly has tied up there, but there's one thing that you talked about that really hit home for me earlier, Melissa, and that was don't live your life just checking off the boxes. And for myself, I can honestly say for years I did that. I'd have a coach that say, oh, you got to do this, this, and this, and this to be successful. I would literally take out the damn checkbox and like my list and check off every single one. And yet, lo and behold, not a lot changed. And then, you become like you're a robot. So life is you get up at 4, you do this, you do that, get ready, you go make your lunches, and then you get on with your day. You go to work, you come back, you do this, this, and this. Okay, checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. And at the end of the day, you're exhausted. You've done what you needed to do, but not what you wanted to do. And that in itself is exhausting. And, and until you get past the year and you think, okay, what really have I done? Like nothing that I wanted to do on my dream vision board. For those of you that have your vision boards that are close to you and set your dreams and your goals. But I love that. Everything just becomes so monotonous sometimes, and you're just clicking off the box. So how did you design your life not to be check boxes and to just live in the moment more?
Well, I mean, a lot of it was trial and error, learning new things, learning different, things. But I think the most important one for me was actually getting to know myself better and, learning what you like. It's easy to say, oh, I like the color purple, I like pizza, blah, blah. But how much, like, one of the things that made a huge difference for me was I took this quiz and read the book at the same time, but was the 5 love languages. And this one was actually a game changer for me. It does have the Christian side to it, but I mean, if you can get past that part, this has made a huge difference in my life with all of my relationships. And one of the things that is important to me is happiness, but connecting with myself and knowing what I wanted to achieve made that difference. And it was going back to the basics. And sometimes it was doing all of the quizzes. Sometimes it was really just making a list, and learning, what I was proud of myself. One of the hardest questions I had to look at was, what do I like about myself? What are my top 5 qualities? And a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people struggle with selling themselves to themselves. I could list off an amazing amount of qualities about anybody else, but sometimes for me to say something nice about myself was hard. So when I started, making a list of what my strong qualities and what my strong passions are, made that difference and really helped me to shape what I wanted to do. And it, reconnected with that. And once you've connected with yourself, it goes all into the other areas. And I know it sounds kind of cliche, but when you love yourself, you love so much more. And that's what I had to learn, was how to love myself again to make that difference. And sometimes it was just saying my affirmations or whatever. And it, sometimes at the beginning you have to fake it till it's actually true. And it does make a difference one day. And, they still do today. My affirmations will be that pickup I need, or, reaching out to somebody will make that difference. And I've learned, that I am stronger than I thought. And, that helped me with all the other areas.
So true. So true. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. I'm getting. I love all of what you had to say. Now, there's also for those of people that don't know, you do have a special group on Facebook as well. Do you
Yes.
want to tell our audience more about that?
Sure. So I do have a private group on Facebook. It is for women. It's called Inspirational Confident Women. And in my group, we focus on a lot of different things. I mean, the first thing about my group is it's a community, and it's a place where we can share our stories. It's a place where we can connect with other women and support each other. And it's a space that, we will pick like a monthly topic and we'll use that as a starting point. But that's what it is. It's a starting point to build those lives that we want. Like, for example, this month we're focusing on boundaries and personal boundaries, relationship boundaries, and that kind of stuff. Things we've talked about in the past. We've done personal stories, we've done resilience. So we tackle all the big ones. And, in the group, we've got working moms, we have single women, we have other coaches, we have so many things. So it's not just one little group. Like, this is a community that, shares their stories and really does, I think, support each other. We're still small right now, but we're going to be a mighty power one day. At least that's my goal. And,
Yeah, and I have no doubt. I am a member of that group. I will have to say, for the last couple of weeks, I have not openly participated. I've been on vacation, and then we've had a family emergency, so I've really not been on Facebook a whole lot in the private group. So definitely get a hold of Melissa if you would like to be part of that group, because it is powerful. I mean, there is a lot of good content in that group, and definitely you said a couple times that sharing your story is powerful, and my mantra is everybody has a story, and we should all share it. And I believe that our lives are interconnected with other people's lives, and by not sharing our story is actually very selfish, because you could help somebody by sharing, by openly sharing. And there are moments that perhaps some people think that I share too much. And lately, my videos that I've been posting have been real and raw, and they're in real time. And normally I wait until I'm past the crisis before I share. But I had a really good mentor, Kimberly, that has said, in those raw moments is really when we should be sharing those, because there's other people out there that are going through the same thing, and that can be helped by those moments. And when you said living gratitude for everything, I have been tested to the max by that these last 8 days, to the point where I give gratitude every day for the situation that we're in, no matter how insane it is. Being at your dad's bedside every day, watching him go downhill even more, but giving thanks in all the lessons that we were being taught this week. And I did a special video that the other day. I'm not going to go into it. If anybody wants to look at it, they can go back and look at the content. But it was in our suffering, we are learning lessons from my father. Like, he can't speak, he's unresponsive. But the lessons we are learning is powerful. So I just want to remind everybody, like you said, when you're in those moments, embrace the suck, and definitely go with gratitude in everything. And I love that you had said that, and it reminded me of that.
And it's true. And I mean, if you look back at anything, how to say this? So if you look back at situations, and the ones that we've struggled with and overcome are going to be the most powerful ones. And we're going to value them so much more. I mean, would I like my life to be on a different path? Well, of course. I mean, nobody really wants to suffer. Nobody really wants that hard life. But at the same time, all of the things that have happened with my health and with the journey that I've been on, it's honestly made me, I'm not going to say a better person, because I mean, I've always been pretty positive in my life, but it's also given me what I've wanted to do. It's given me that purpose, and it's given me the sense that I know that I can overcome. I know that what's happened is going to help me in the future. It's made me that stronger and that resilient, that I have now learned to cope with things that are going to make, I'm not going to say it's probably going to make it easier, but it's going to make it easier for me to cope and to overcome in the future. Those, tools that I'm learning now and that I've learned in the past are going to make it easier for myself. And, it makes me want to help others to do that too. And, like Dorothy was saying, for hers, it's, everything that we do shaped us, and every story that we share. And I've always said, if I could just help one person, that's enough for me. And if only one person watches this and sees that they're not alone, that there is somebody out there, then that's all I need. Just knowing that if I could be that cheerleader for one person, that makes a difference. And that's what we need to know. And I think one of the things that, makes COVID so scary is it isolates us. But I've also seen through COVID, you know, people come together, and, online groups have popped up, and, so while it's isolating us at sometimes, it's also bringing us together. I know, we're tired of Zoom, but even if it's just connecting with somebody over Zoom and, just listening to their story and having them listen to you will make that difference, I think. And, if that's one thing I could do, is if you ever need to talk, reach out to somebody. You will always find somebody. And, if you are that person who has to listen, don't try to fix it, listen. Because that's all that person wants, is just to listen.
Melissa, that last piece, you got to say that again. We got to make sure that they really got that, because everything you've said tonight has been brilliant, poignant. I really appreciate the reference to, the darker, more difficult times of life. They really do give us passion and purpose and strength and vitality.
Mm-hmm.
It really is where
Yes.
vitality, there's that sense of, I have this one life. It's the time to live it is now. Brilliant in what you last said. I really want you to say more about that so that they can really hear it, because that does occur to me as a missing for people, is when they do finally reach out to someone. And I would imagine that a lot of the time they don't reach out because other people are well-intentioned and so busy trying to fix them, or it actually tells those voices in their head that they're right, that there's something wrong with them. So say a little bit more about the power of bringing a powerful listening to other people when they're sharing, so that it doesn't occur like they need to be fixed, and that the power of listening, the gift that listening is, for no other reason than that person got to get heard. What kind of ways of listening, and speaking, more importantly, do you actually recommend for those people that are the ones that are going to be there for someone else that's in a time of struggle?
Well, I mean, I think the first one is, even if you have that desire to say something, and if even it is just to say, I understand, don't say it. Let them talk. Let them pour it all out. Soon as somebody says, I'm hurting right now, your first instinct is to comfort, but you haven't let them to say how they're hurting yet. So let them know. I mean, I'm not saying don't say anything to sit there and stare at them, because that's just creepy. But
Well said.
yeah. But just to actually stop and listen, not to say, oh, I understand how you or even not, sometimes saying I understand isn't helping them. So letting them actually stop and listen to them is, I think, the first step, is to not just jump in with both feet. Let them do that. And it's actually stopping you from having to, because as soon as you hear somebody say, I'm hurting or whatever, or, I want to talk to you, you're already in your mind formulating a response. But, if you're knowing that you have to stop and listen, it actually lets you hear what they're saying, because you're not thinking, what should I be saying? What should I be doing? You're actually going to hear what they need, and then you can formulate your response. And, if you're struggling with something to say after you listen to them, let them know that. Let them know that, I hear what you're saying. Give me a few seconds to think of a reply, or ask them what they want to hear. How can I help you with this? What would you like to hear? It's not a matter that we have to solve the problem. It's giving them the voice to say it, and asking them what they need probably is the solution that they want. They just want somebody to hear them. They just want somebody to connect with them. And, letting them have that, giving them the power to say that is, what they need. And knowing that you don't have to solve it is going to make a big difference right there.
Fantastic. That's really brilliant. Really well said. And one of the things I always like to let people know to say in their listening as well is, when they're done, when they're done saying whatever, and just is there anything else? Is there anything else you want to say? Is there anything else you want to get off your chest? This is a safe place. You can say anything to me. I'm just giving you a place to vent, a place to set your mind free, and then when they're all done with all of it, just say, okay, now what's there for you? Now that you got that off your chest, what's available for you?
Exactly.
And it's
And
amazing.
sometimes it's just a matter of talking it out. I mean, that's one of the things that makes the difference, is you just need to get those words outside of you, to have them there, and just just to get them out of you. Another thing that, talking to somebody is great and everything like that, but another one that I'm very passionate about is journaling. And anyone in my group will know this, is I am a huge proponent of journaling. And the reason why is because if you're not comfortable speaking to somebody, that journal can give you the option of having that voice. When you really get comfortable with it, I can tell you, pouring everything out and into those pages, I've poured out things that I would never say to somebody. And I've cried when I've been writing, and it makes a huge difference. So, two things then: if you talk to somebody and journal. If that's my two takeaways, is talk to people, talk to somebody, and to journal it out, because it will make a huge difference. And let's be honest, that journal can't judge you. And sometimes you're afraid that you're going to be judged. Those pages can't judge you, and you can burn it when you're done. You don't have to keep it. But when I've gone back and looked at my journals from 5 years ago to now, there's a huge shift. And sometimes reading those things are extremely hard, but it also shows me how much I've come, how much I've grown as a person, and it makes that difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love what you said. I do both. I have an amazing support system, I will say. And Kimberly is one of my amazing 7. And every single time she's like, okay, just go. And I love that. But I like the journaling part too. Um, what's important is when you have people that you're going to vent to, it's important to that you know that those people are have your back, number one, and they're never going to judge you anyways, because I know my 7 that I have, no matter what comes out of my mouth, I know they would never judge me for that. So it's critical, it, to find your people,
Yes.
and to stick with those people. But like you said, the pages aren't going to judge you either, and that's good. And if you've also, I've learned from other people that, if you're really angry with somebody, to write a letter to them. It doesn't mean you have to send it to them. It just means that you write it out, and you, like you said, Melissa, you could burn it. I think my mom has some writing to do. After being with my mom for 8 days, my mom needs some writing to do. So
Definitely.
after
That's one of the things that I've recommend always is writing a letter. And it could be to somebody else. It could be to yourself. And that's like one amazing forgiveness exercise is to write that letter, and you don't have to send it. And another one is write a love letter to yourself, because that'll make a huge difference to yourself. And, who doesn't want to look back and see something nice about themselves? So why not write it yourself?
Melissa, you just created something fun I'm going to take on thanks to you, which is
Yay.
I'm going to know, like, no joke. I am going to grab like 3 or 4 cards and send them to myself. This is so cool. This has never come up with anyone ever before. And different things, right? Like, you're amazing, or thanks for loving me, or like, really, no kidding, and write something really spectacular in there. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give them to my husband, and I'm gonna say, just intuitively, whenever it strikes you, I'll have it all addressed, stamp, whole thing, throw them in the mail to me, right? So that I have no idea when they're coming, and just really allow my husband and the universe and, my soul within me to send me love letters in the mail. I just think that's so fun. I love
It's really
that.
funny that you bring it up. One, I do that actually to random people. I will leave them around the city.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I never do that to myself.
No, right? We don't often think about that. We'll do it for somebody else. Like, we'll know somebody's having a bad day or whatever, but we won't do it for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so totally mail them to yourself.
I'm totally taking it on. Thank you, Melissa. And anybody else who heard that, really, it makes, I'm very much in the mastery, of self-care, because I am on a mission. As Dorothy knows, that's what even has me here tonight. And, our paths, providence, enforcing our paths to cross. I would say the 3 of us and anyone who's listening, you cannot be participating in life at a level of mission work and not take care of yourself. You can't. It's when dis-ease shows up. The vessel just can't handle it. So really, thank you. This is not something goofy and silly. This is something very real that will give power both to whoever that person is that you choose to give those letters to, or those cards to, or those funny, whatever it is, right? This is exciting, Melissa. I'm very excited for something you've just created here that I think is really
Yay.
cool.
Well, I'm
So
glad.
thank you
And
for
I
that.
mean, that's the one thing. And, when going back to where I said, do kind acts, and it's a twofold things, because you're making that difference for somebody else, but you also get that rush. There was a movement a while back, is smiles are free. I think it was McDonald's who had that one. But if you smile at somebody, instinctively you smile, then the person who sees you thinks they're smiling at you, so then they start to smile, right? And it's kind of the same thing. Smiles are contagious, but so is kindness, and so is positivity. And it's easier if you're being positive, because like I said, it does infect other people. So.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so I feel like we're on an episode of P.S. I Love You. Have you ever watched that movie, Kimberly?
I don't know. No.
Oh my God. Okay, Kimberly, you give me movies to watch all the time, my dear.
Yes.
Your movie to watch is P.S. I Love You.
Oh, it's a movie. I may
It's
have
a
seen
movie.
it, but okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Or read the book.
Because yes. Okay, so it's an amazing love story.
Well, I'm looking at the crew, and I'm already in love. I love Gerard Butler.
I know, right?
Harry Connick Jr. Hello.
Oh,
It's
exactly.
like a no-brainer there, right?
Yeah.
So yes, it's now officially on my list. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
You have to.
Yes,
must see. Okay,
you'll because of the letters. I'm not going to give it away, but it's one of those movies.
Okay,
I'm not going to give it away. Oh, I should have done that for my
laugh,
mom.
and you're gonna cry, and you're gonna
I should have done that for my mom. Oh well. Anyways.
It's not too late. It's not too late. You can.
You can do it.
I don't know if I have enough brain power to do it right now.
You don't have to do it right this second. Really, it's just I can, Melissa, you're such an incredible human being. That the level that you're providing in this space is, when what Dorothy just pointed to, and what we want everyone to hear in the listening of this podcast, is when you have a brilliant idea, if you're exhausted, if you're in a dark place, if you're dealing with trauma or drama of any kind, write it down. Write down the brilliant idea. Don't
put
be
it on a
so
sticky
quick.
note right now.
That's right. Don't be so quick to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because what you just created, Dorothy, for yourself, for your mom, for your dad, for the healing process, I promise you, divine energy will never give you an idea that's not valid and timeless. And it may occur like it can only be done right now, or it's worthless, right?
Mhm.
Or I should have done that, or I could have done that, or damn, right? Like it's like the moment it comes into the consciousness is right on time. It's right on time.
I'm writing a note to myself, ladies.
Good.
Put a heart around that note.
Put a heart around the note.
Put a heart. Put some stars by it.
That's right.
All I'm saying is, for 47 years of marriage, it's been very hard for her as we transition into our next phase, which still isn't being transitioned into. So it's very hard for her right now. And so I think, that is what's needed.
Isn't it lovely when you get what's needed right on time? And
I honestly truly think it does come to you when you need it. And, whether it's from God or from whoever you follow, it's what happens is meant to be.
Well, and I just love that Dorothy's a living, breathing example of your work, Melissa. She could, anyone would have given her room to not have this podcast tonight. Anyone would have given her room to completely turn it over to me as a co-host, and would have been like, oh my God, you're dealing with your dad and all of this, and because she chose to be who she is for her community, because she chose, to honor her word to you, Melissa. The gifts that are just coming forth for her by being where she said she would be it speaks to everything you said tonight, Melissa. So, hats off always to Dorothy, and the space that she is for all of us and these podcasts, and that she continues to be someone who doesn't just talk a great game. She's actually practicing the things that she's bringing forth for people. So she's a great living, breathing example.
Definitely.
Yeah, really
I agree.
To be here with you both tonight. Yeah.
Hurts.
With that, I'm too choked up. So you're going to have to do the last 3 minutes of the show.
Well, let's do something fun. Let's hey, life is life. All of it. It's quite beautiful. So Melissa, you got 2 minutes. 2 miracle minutes. What do you want to put out magnificently to the world?
Oh my God, way to put that on this spot.
Hey, you got this. You got this, I promise. Whatever you say is magnificent. Magnificent Melissa speaks.
I don't know. Strive for happiness. Strive for purpose is what, if anything else, just strive to what makes you happy and go after your happiness unapologetically. And just know that when you're making your happy, it will fall into place and you will make that difference. And whatever that looks like, and it may be completely different, and that is okay. So be happy and just live it. So I don't think that was 2 minutes, but
well, you nailed it. What I heard was be unapologetically happy. Yep. And everything will flow from there. So thank you, Melissa. Dorothy?
You're welcome.
Well, thank you, ladies, for joining us tonight, and thank you, Melissa, because Melissa also had a family tragedy today too. So we are just all overcomers here on the Unstoppable Overcomer Show, and we're unstoppable no matter what. You can't kill us. We're here.
We only get stronger. Dorothy, can we share with the community again Melissa's information so they know where to reach her? Because how impressive is she as a life coach and guide that she could be dealing with a family tragedy and show up the way she did tonight.
Right. So I'm going to put in the comments, in the show notes, I did put Melissa's website, and it's beautifulsoullife.wordpress.com is her website. I'll put it in the comments. And Melissa, where else can they reach you?
They can reach me on Facebook. My group is Inspirational Confident Women. It is a private group, so just reach out to me. So reach out to Melissa Phillipoff on Facebook, and I can send you an invite, or I'm also on Instagram. Let's be honest, I have all social media. I'm an older millennial. We have all of it. Let's be honest.
Good for you.
Or reach out to Dorothy, and Dorothy can get it to me. So
yes. I put it in the comments, but I noticed for some reason, my table's shifting here. It only comes up on YouTube, but I definitely have put all that information in the show notes when I wrote the show up. So it's all there. And yes, if you can't find Melissa, let me know, and I will definitely direct her to you over on the Facebook group. So
thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. And Kimberly, thank you for at the last minute stepping up and helping me with tonight's show. I wasn't sure how I would be able to do it. So I sincerely thank you at the last minute, you being my wing woman. And
about it.
With that, everybody, I hope you have an amazing evening, and God bless everybody.
Bye, everyone.